Wheat harvest America projected lowest in 149 years, money supply highest in 250 years. That intersection in the middle means everything you buy this summer and forward is going to cost you more money, especially food. Amber, waves of grain, not so much this year. Newsweek putting it out along with some other forecasters. America's wheat harvest set to fall to the lowest level in 150 years. Some say 140, 149, close enough for government work because it's a government statistic. U.S. wheat harvested planted 1866 to 2026. And you see there's a red line and then the black line starts. Well, the red line was estimated until they got what considered quote unquote really good data just prior to the Dust Bowl, because they started to notice crop losses then too, and they started measuring it to make sure there was enough food for the country. So that puts it in a category of its own, going back that far. What atrocious events had happened to our country in terms of not being able to provide enough rainfall for us to even grow food, and with the incredible drought. You know, El Nino's coming in, and that has something to do with it. But before that, winter wheat never got a start this year either. And dropping in on the July 2nd drought index here, we're putting low to 48, plus Puerto Rico and Alaska and Hawaii on this, but the drought persists over predominantly a huge amount of our grow belt out west and central. So when you put it in perspective, this is going to be a long-term event here. This is not subsiding. Then you want to add in what's happening in Europe as well. They're having the same exact thing in multiple months. And then that heat dome that just went over really finally sealed the fate of the crops. Corn mainly. They're looking at about a third of all the corn in Europe wiped out. Remember, to step back a month or so, they already had a drought and a heat dome over there when the plants were just emerging out of the ground, and they were really trying to get started, and they got bashed with the heat, not enough water. They sort of recovered, and then we got these record temperatures across France and Germany and other places, some Romanian damage up there too, but it seemed like the greater part of Europe where they're growing crops, corn specifically on this one, where in the United States it's wheat specifically. But wherever you're looking, Australia, wheat, massive declines. Everywhere we grow wheat, Canada, the wheat is down, the corn is down. Prices are going to go up. They're going to follow along this. And the thing I kept reading again was about, is it going to be a prolonged event? Because if it is, start looking for the prices to go up in different commodities. You can follow that on different agricultural news, or just, jump into where they feature prices for wheat, corn, soy, cocoa, sugar, these types of things. This seems to be a prolonged event. So it does look like these prices are going to continue up and up. Now we'll get through the second batch of crop tours here in July. And if they come out as bad as their forecast, then you're going to watch the numbers rise further. Now put it into context, where we're spending right now with the wheat, it's not even close to the record highs that it's been. We're far below record highs. If you go on a all-time basis, we're not there yet. Europe's not there yet either. But if it persists through the rest of this summer and we get into these drought conditions, we will go at or above those record highs again. So just think about how different, however old you are, what you remember food prices being, depending on how expensive the wheat or the corn or the soy was. That's where we're going again. It's just history is going to repeat this time. It's going to rhyme. So get ready for that. If you remember those days of old. Speaking of days of old, 1911, July 4th. Look at the scorching temperatures. Nearly the entire United States was 90 or 100, blanketed. 1911, put that one in. That was just when things were starting to flip over, and then it rolled for another decade or so, and that Dust Bowl started to kick in, and then, ouch, it really slammed. So it took about a good 20 years after that event before Dust Bowl really got to being not beyond a nuisance. It was a civilization-changing thing, at least for us in America. 73 miles off the coast of Antarctica, and water so clean they're virtually untouched by human pollution, lives a tiny organism that researchers believe may be one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory nutrients ever discovered. It's called krill. If you've been taking fish oil for heart, joint, or memory support, there's something you need to know. Research shows fish oil is 50% less absorbable than krill oil because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form while krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format your cell walls are made of. That means krill oil gets into your cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill oil outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain. Native Path Antarctic krill oil is sourced from pristine Antarctic waters, contains the powerful antioxidant astaxanthin, and comes in a tiny soft gel, no fishy burps. For my special bundle offer plus free shipping, head to getkrill.com/adapt. That's GETKRILL.com/ADAPT. Try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee. Click on that link in the description box below. But if you look at the statewide temperature highs over the years too, this map's really good. You can freeze frame it. It'll show you what the year was and what the high temperature was for that year. This is all-time record highest temperatures because we've been a huge amount of heat. Heat domes need just tremendous amounts of power outages and things this year. But you got to put it in perspective. Like, it is a scorcher in some of these. Like, look all up where the Midwest Grow Belt is. 120 degrees, 1936, 118 degrees, 1934, 121 in 1936 as well, 120 in 1936. 36 seemed to be like a crazy hot year like 1911 was. So you go back in time, you can find something that rhymes again. Picture some scrappy looking corn for you here, breaking photos, dead corn, sunflower, and potatoes also across the EU. Just they're not coming back. So the losses are just going to continue to mount. They're calling it devastating. I don't know if that's the correct word to use. But beyond the spindly scraps of what was corn here, you can see how everything's just burned on the leaf. Like, that is not going to mature. Any ears are they're going to be small, or they're just not coming. They're in full preservation mode right now. For them to throw off grain heads is the last thing they're thinking about. These plants thinking about, I need to stay alive. You're not worried about producing something when you're at bare minimum operation. But here we go. This is the euro corn price here. So you can see it's already starting to go up, right along with the declarations of corn being lost in different crops. So this is like a real-time going up in price thing that we're seeing here, and it's going to continue. And another thing I didn't notice, President Trump declined to renew NAFTA, the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement. And so any of the grains coming across the borders, that's going to be subject to tax now, and that is going to cost more. If we need to import it for some reason, or if the things that we need to bring in as foodstuffs, it's just going to cost more. So a moment of zen as we continue the video here. Trying to keep it a little cool as well. It looks like a very cool landscape. You know what I mean? It just, you can tell that's a chilly spot. That's not Arizona. That's like 60 north and above, getting you nice and cooled off in the summer heat. Oh, wait, the red is back. Red, 23 trillion. That's the money supply. That is not the debt. Please do not mix those two up. Money supply hits a record in May of 2026. And I thought, oh, that's 23. You know, that's a significant number in these large moneyed crowds surging. Monies that didn't stop, still going, surging again. Largest increase in 5 years. Well, that was on top of already in May, and that was just dovetailing on, and it is just continuing to, well, move up. So what do you think happens with prices of your food when they're printing money to inflate them? The only way we're going to solve this is I've heard some talk of them revaluing gold to $20,000 an ounce. That's about it. Nobody really wants to buy the debt around the planet. So we're just going to keep printing. This alone is going to drive the price of food in America. And maybe not so much outside in the other places where they got their different own currency they can manipulate and do stuff with. But in the US, the more we print, the more, that's why things are getting so expensive. Just like you can watch it go up by the month. It's because we keep printing money by the month, just like you see in the charts. These charts, your food prices follow the charts. Your daily cost of living follows the charts. So where do the charts go from here? Oh, 166 Trillion, that's with the T right there, trillion, not billions, trillions. Just like 23 trillion for United States, 166 trillion on the global stock market. Like, you just look at these, unsustainable, and it just continues to grind up. And in my opinion, from what I keep reading and hearing, they're just not going to let it fall. They're going to keep printing more money. It looks good on paper, it really does. But that's inflation that you're seeing in the paper. That's not true value. That's not a pre-Federal Reserve dollar of value. You're getting inflated money in those prices. So it looks like everybody's going up. Yeah, but the amount you can buy with that. When I cannot talk about money without throwing in the stable coin supply, that is all part of the new money system. That's what I said. There's got to be an escape valve here somewhere, right? This is part of it. So the stable coin, look at the stable coin supply. That, just consider it money supply. It's like a new way to print money. Look at that. It's up and up and up. Everywhere you look, it's inflation. So I'm just trying to put these two together. Crops far less this year. Yields are down. You can just see it every continent. It's atrocious this year. Truly, it's atrocious. It's the best word to use. Less yields, and we got inflating currencies across the planet. That is not a good recipe. It's just not. It just points to food is going to become more and more and more expensive, and it's going to be this never-ending grind up. Like, you've seen it since, say, 2020, when the vid started. Things just got more expensive, especially after 22, 23. Just think you could definitely see everything that got repriced across the planet to stay there permanently at that new step up. Well, we're permanently going to a new step, or we have already entered a new step up where prices will not fall back down from here. I remember the good old days of 2022 when things were only double price, when I remember them from 2020. Now they're 3-4 times price. So put that in perspective. It is going to keep going up. Now, how do you protect yourself against this? That's the whole thing. Like, the only reason I bring you this is, like, it's a collective thought here. What can we do, knowing this is in play, to keep our families safe, and then try to reduce some of these costs, produce our own foods? How do you get around some of this thing? You buy in bulk, you share with others? I'm not sure. It's a discussion board. You can leave your comments below. I'd like to hear them too. What are people thinking? What are you doing? What are you implementing? How can we work together to solve a single problem, this one? That's really where the value is going to be, is solving this type of problem. It's going to be a pain point for everybody. So how do we get through this pain point, offer solutions? Because I want to bring you to the wealth pyramid. Visualizing global wealth. And you look at the pyramid and you're like, oh, wow, look at all the money at the top there. It's around not really that 1%, is it? And you go, oh, wait. It's an interesting way to look at the amount of money. So that top, more bright green section where it says 45.8, those are people with $1 million or more on the planet that hold all that wealth. And then as you step down that, 39.4% of the global population with assets of $100,000 US to $1 million US, they control that much of the money or the wealth on the planet. It's not just money, it's real estate, it's assets. And if you go down to that very base layer, which is very, small at the bottom, 1.2%. But you look at that and you go, well, that's a large part of the pyramid. That's only 1.2%. They have $10,000 approximately of accumulated asset wealth. So look at that and say, that's kind of interesting. Then looking into that, I'd like to widen that last part out there, because it doesn't do it justice here. Adults on the entire planet who have less than $10,000, and that could be in cash and assets, less than 10,000, half the planet. Now, where you live, you're always judging against everybody else, keeping up with the Joneses who have the same amount. But you go to half the other planet, and you make in a month what they have in an entire lifetime of earnings under their fingertips here. 34.4% of the people across the planet own $10,000 to $100,000 worth of assets. If you're above that, and 100,000 to $1 million is only 12% of the whole planet's population. And look at that very little top there, 1.1% have over $1 million, but they control that large part of the entire global wealth pyramid. It's just two different ways to look at it. Visually, the amount of control there is in that. Because trying to navigate through the stock market, make some money, put some things aside, get some real estate, it's like playing a game. The financial system against you. Now, how good are you? Can you outsmart the financial system? Oh, wait a second. They write their own rules, don't they? That's what we're battling against. And the rules are being ever rewritten as we come into this economic, well, restructuring, shall we say. But growing your own food or having access to food or providing food or raising animals, anything like this, any way you can, maybe you don't even have to be that producer. If you're able to take what somebody else has produced and turn it into a more valuable product. Like maybe someone gives you a couple 100 pounds of apples. What can you do with that and turn a couple 100 pounds of apples of like maybe 60 bucks worth of apples into something else that's worth 150 bucks? All right, and then you can scale that once you can figure that process out. Or what can you do with 1,000 pounds of apples and turn it into something? You know, you just work the numbers on that. But all kind of produce coming up here at this time of the year through the rest of the summer. You can get it incredibly cheap, I mean, comparatively. So that excess, how can you take that product and turn it into, can a flour turn into a tea? Can you use part of a leaf and dry it into herbs for cooking, culinary? There's a lot of different things. Fruit dried, how about, what's that, fruit leather? I knew a guy who was experimenting, that was one of my neighbors who was experimenting with that last year. You can take the simple products and turn it into something higher value. That is its own set of things to think about in terms of, you know, moving through this. If you're going to need more money because things are costing more and you can take something and making it up, then you're part of the supply chain at that point. I don't care how small it is, you're trading with 10 neighbors. You're in the supply chain of food. That's the whole thing. Like, how do you continue to make sure you have access to food? You're in the food supply chain. You're providing value in that supply of the food moving from A to B. Maybe you have a larger truck you're not really using too much. Maybe, you know, something like this. Oh, we can do farm deliveries. I don't know. There's a million things to keep your fingers in the food supply. People are always looking away for cut costs. You know, all these farmers that I know too are saying, man, I wish I could get somebody out here, just take this to this. I don't want to pay the freight bill because most of the guys are, you know, pulling you over the barrel there because it's just the way it is. If you can come in there cheaper and do that and move something for them, I guarantee they'll use your service. Everybody's getting pulled over a barrel right now because prices are so high for fuel and maintenance on the things and the vehicles themselves and the registration, the insurance. Like anybody moving goods, they're gonna have to cost more. But if you have your own private truck and you're willing to do it in the morning or just an extra hour or a couple hours, there's so many possibilities here. And then we can scale it from there. So anyway, I wish you the best of luck in your preps. This is going to be an ongoing thing here. So it's all about how do you, again, give value back to somebody. It's got to be a win-win, but stay in the food supply, but then also benefit your community as well. Things are going to just start tearing at the seams here. And we're going to go back to more regional, more, you know, community-based types of things here. It'll be a high-tech, community-based world, I do believe. So leave your comments below. Love to read them. And part of the slides I did today, I just put up a post over on Patreon and Subscribestar both about the corn. I'm going to do on the wheat here coming up. I got some slides on the wheat as well, trying to get some numbers out for you for the global wheat supply. Please remember to share this with your friends and family. Subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and as always, feel free to chop it up and send it around your social because we need to have this conversation. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.